Hello again. The new year is fast approaching and I have saved this big pierced journal to share with you and to share that I have certainly learned a lesson about not biting off more than I can chew. This has been challenge, and fun throughout. However, this would have been probably about big enough. Live and learn. The front cover was pierced with my favorite flower design, and I applied, as I remember, this piece of old cleanup paper from my Thurber book because it had such lovely colors and laid out so nicely. So that I applied here. And as I remember, I used my Nuance powders on a wet background. They are watercolor powders on a wet background, and that produced some of these markings. I also did some, as I call it, splotching with watercolor, and that then left me with what to do next. It took a while for me to see the page. I decided to play up this design here and here in gold, and I tried using my embossing pen and black embossing powder around the outside of it, and I'm really quite pleased with the result there. It was better in some areas than in others, but of course, there again, learning by doing. The flowers I painted on. I painted on some of these green areas, and then used the varieties of gradations of color in each of these areas as a source of the design for the flowers. All in all, I'm glad I waited until September to do this because it's the front cover of this piece and I wanted it to be special, and this particular piece of paper is very special to me because these colors were all here. These were cleaned off pages, and they were green, shades of green and pink, and they were on this old book text. This alone is a source of joy for me. I think I'll skip over now to the back cover, which here we have some piercing, and I used the piercing design in the overall design, and a piece of a large collage from my very favorite flower book, and added some more collage. Here was the last bit I added. I wanted to see how closely I could mimic this flower up here, and that was quite fun in the doing. I'd never tried using getting shades of gray to do that, and oh my, that was great fun. The far left border were stamps, and I filled in the background. So that gave me my front and back cover. The next piece that I wanted to share was a piece of watercolor. I used masking tape on this to give it a frame. I wanted a very neutral background. I plunked on my watercolors for these 5 flowers. I drew in these leaves and used a design that I've used further back here. If you can notice it here on these, and this was a joy to do. This is seriously therapy for me. I just love, love, love doing this sort of watercolor. Then came to this page. This was kind of a super challenge because I wanted to do a circle around these cutouts here, and so that was my focal. That was easy to do. I got the circle down. I added the golden bar because it draws the eye up to the top, and then I was left with what to do, and I decided to use this design that's in the cutouts on the two flowers and some of this watercolor design that I had been working on and having great fun doing, and more of this flower design throughout with variations in color, and I brought them up from a little bit lighter to dark at the top in order, as I said, to draw the eye up the page. I decided to leave well enough alone and not mess with the leaves. But I had great fun because this was probably my first major tryout of white pens, and I do like them on a dark background. I spread a little bit of the watercolor here to play off the colors that were on here, so I have a little purple here, a little green here, some green, and it turned out, as if I must say so myself, to be quite a pleasing page. Easy on the eye, fun to do. But as I remember, I do believe this took 2 or 3 steps, 2 or 3 videos worth of work in order to get this one finished. Now, let's see what happens. Is there anything here and back here? No. Alrighty, and this one. Totally, totally different from what I'm used to doing, but great fun. Rubbing out, putting on a watercolor background, a stencil, and rubbing out watercolor through the stencil in order to get these lighter shades. And these two lovely collage pieces just called to me. This page took less steps, less time, but different and fun and dark compared to the lights thus far. Now let's see what happens. Where are we going next? Oh yes. Oh yes. This is where we're going next. This one, again, focal pieces of collage. This large one, the major piece, large enough to go in a piece with an expanse like this. I brought again some of the flowers onto this page. Many layers of color underneath and around the collage, and then gold. I don't know why I picked gold as the color, but I'm quite tickled that I did. It certainly seems to work with this design. More work, practice with my white pens, stenciling behind, many, many, many layers. I embellished and covered her face so that she would look less scary because, to be honest, those eyes when she was uncovered were blood red and So I redid her face a bit to make myself happy, and at the end added some light touches of a very neutral gray stencil to in turn push back the gold that I had brought, that I put on this to bring it forward. A very different experience, but one that I certainly did like. Having a little bit of trouble with this tape, but such is life, and this is a well-used and well-moved book, so I'm going to close my eyes to that problem. I think I'll close this page over and turn this one back. Yes, 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 and this one. More collage pieces here and here and here. Little bit of collage up here just because I like them. And then another art challenge for me. I drew this over here and decided to see how close I could get to mimicking. And I seem to be quite the copyist. I would have done well in a Renaissance class at the copy phase. Many layers, background built forward. Some of the stencil that you'll notice that I was on the back cover. I like to kind of use things, if I could, throughout to give the piece a little bit of the book, a little bit of cohesion. So here the point basically of this spread was for me to practice my copying skills in watercolor. This, one of my handy dandy oblong stencils. This, of course, is an oblong stencil, and I do like them. Okay, I do believe this one turns down into here. Yes, it does. And then we have this one, and then this one turns over, and out pops this one. Here is the first time that I experimented with designs like this, and it certainly do. I have to admit, it takes an OCD personality to do that and enjoy it, but I do love doing it. It's absolutely, you cannot think about anything else while you're doing this other than what your mind wants to wander to. So this spread, the focal flower from my flower book, another circle. I seem to be enjoying doing those this year. I added these leaves, did some very basic background stenciling. I did not want to take away from the impact of this central motif. And I am going to be doing more of this and sharing it with you in tutorials this year, because although it's time-consuming and relaxing, it certainly is a lot of bang for the buck. I enjoyed doing this and what I discovered here. And here is fall. This beautiful big chrysanthemum. Again, my bars of color. And playing up this chrysanthemum, but making them, I wanted to make the background speak without overpowering this, although I think it would take an army to overpower this flower. I sketched on, and painted the stem and leaves. I used my go-to stencil and my Josanya paint that I've had probably for 25 years. And the background, if you were able to notice, has a slight bit of my shimmer egg on it in through the stencil. And here again, some of my Derwent Inktense spread with a very tiny bit of water, but just adding gesso to it to give this effect, to give shading. A sincere attempt at remembering fall and flowers like this. They do say it all. Then, from fall, came to my last opus for this book, which is on the back cover. Some Christmas colors. These snowberries and some of these leaves were the focal collage images, again from my flower book. This is tissue paper, some paper that I made when I was doing some printing. This piece, I don't know what it is or why it's here, but it certainly almost has the concept. I wanted the snowberries to be standing in something that might say pot, so this is my idea of pot on this one. Many layers. I sloshed on the color background, and then what to do with the background colors. And if you will notice, there is some iridescence involved in that background, not too much, because if the background were too strong on this page, wow, it would take away from this, and I don't think anything much could take away from this other than probably than putting a black background on, which I had been thinking of, but decided in the end not to do. So, my life lesson for the year: don't bite off more than you can chew, or be careful of what you wish for. Either will do. I'm happy that I did it. I learned so much in the doing. I might or might not get back to this particular piece, but I do have a journal that is probably about this big, and I think that's what Carol is now going to label big enough. So, if you have enjoyed my share, please give me a thumbs up, leave a comment, share with a friend, and I would appreciate it if you would subscribe to my channel. Happy New Year! I will be seeing you soon. I have been working on some projects, getting them ready for the new year, and I hope you will join me on another adventure. Bye now.